see if we got some clutch action. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. In the shop here Monday morning, going to get a little work on the 24-hour build. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I'm going to put all the links in the description. We built this bike in 24 hours. It's about 99% finished. We ran into a couple of parts issues right at the tail end. We didn't have what we needed, and so I just went ahead and called it at about hour 23 because there was no point in continuing on. We weren't going to be able to finish it without a couple radiator hoses and a part for a clutch cable. So anyway, we still called it a win. We were really proud of what we did and had a ton of fun. So now we are going to get this thing wrapped up. So we'll call this hour 25, I guess. And first thing I'm going to do is get the wiring done. People have been asking about a shadow wiring video for quite a while, so this is going to be that. Nick from the AB Pod has been busting my balls about it for probably a year because I told him I would do it and I still haven't. So anyway, we're going to start with that, working on the wiring. Probably will not get all the wiring done today. It's relatively simple to do, but I only have a certain amount of time here, so what I'm going to do is put this video out, and then at some point I'll put everything together into a comprehensive wiring video over the next probably 2 or 3 videos that we're going to do to get this bike finished. This will be the last video before we head out to St. Louis, so there will be no video Saturday. Maybe a live at some point. We'll try and jump on here and there. We're going to be filming the whole trip. We're going to West Virginia to pick up a bike from Mike and Frank. Then we're going to head to St. Louis from there with them. They came down and helped us work on this bike. So anyway, lots of cool stuff going on this coming week, which we will be documenting and sharing with you guys in various ways. So anyway, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to get after it. Alright, so first things first, this is our ICM. This is actually a Shadow 600 ICM. The 750s use a different one with a single crank trigger in the motor. I didn't have that one. I've done this swap before. We put a second pickup in the motor and use the 600 ICM on the 750s. Haven't had any trouble, so we'll see how that continues to work. But what I need to do is get my wires here kind of laid out and marked, because the way we're mounted in this electronics box, we're not going to be able to really see which wire is which once we pull them through the electronics box and get to wiring. So you have a 6-wire plug and a 4-wire plug. The 4-wire plug goes to your pulse generators, which is the ones I was talking about in the motor. Looking at the stock diagram, you have white and yellow. Those go into the plug on the bottom too. So we have our white and yellow here. So that's good. And then on the top plug, we have blue and white and blue, which we have blue and gray. We put all these plugs together. We bought aftermarket plugs. This isn't the factory plugs. We use all new wiring. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and put a little zip tie on these wires so we know which ones are our pairs, which run up to our pulse generator crank traders. Just going to save us some aggravation. So on the 6-wire plug, we have green, which is ground, which on ours is blue. I'm going to use my little heat shrink label printer here. If you haven't seen one of these before, a bunch of info we had on these. So anyway, we got this little dynamo printer, and it prints on heat shrink tubing, which is awesome for labeling your wires. We use this quite a bit. You got your heat shrink mounted on there, and you label your wire. So our next wire is the top middle. I'm just going to go across the plug, and the top middle is green and white. So then we look over here, we got green and white, And that is our interlocks, which is like the kickstand safety switch and stuff, which we don't have anymore. I usually just hook those straight to ground. Far right top row, we have, looks like black wire. So black is going to be your switch 12 volt. The colors I'm stating are just the colors we used also, so bear in mind if you wire your plugs up, or if you use the factory wiring plug where you just cut it off of the harness, you could be different than what I'm stating here. Okay, so now we're going to work our way across the bottom of the plug. So, bottom of the plug closest to the 4-wire plug. Factory color is yellow and blue. We have yellow, so yellow and blue is going to go up and over to your rear coil. Wrong thing, not my phone. I need the label maker. So rear. Okay, the middle wire is green and white. That's going to be your second set of interlock wires. And then the far right side, bottom row, is going to be on the factory colors. You're looking at blue and yellow. It's the front coil. We have a red wire on ours here. Alright, so this is going into the electronics box, which has a hole in the bottom of it to allow our wires to poke through. Attach this to our battery with some 3M double-sided tape. Alright, so next thing, we got our voltage rectifier regulator, little solid state. Got this little mini one. Also going to just double-sided tape this onto the battery. We got that stuck there. We got 3 yellow wires and a red and a green. The red and the green hook directly to the battery, positive and negative. That's where the charging comes from. The 3 yellows hook to the 3 yellows coming out of the motor. This is the factory wire here. I'm gonna we'll have to pop another little hole in the electronics box over here. We'll put a grommet on there and feed these 3 wires in, connect them to here, and our red and black, or red and green, positive and negative, to our battery. And that's the complete charging circuit hooked up. It's that simple. That is the gist of the main engine wiring harness. Obviously I'm going to show you guys how we get everything run and hooked up still coming up here, but that's really all it is. So we are going to get these wires untangled. We got our 4 wires that run to our pulse generators, but we'll get some loom on them. They're gonna sneak up and just run right along here to the bottom side of the motor. We're gonna route these wires here. These are our pulse generator wires, and that is gonna give us our signal from the engine to the ignition. Alright, so first thing we're gonna do is run our coil harness. So we need some wire loom. I'm almost out of loom, so this might be the only sub harness we get to build today, but I use this mesh loom. I'll put a link in the description. It comes in all kinds of different sizes. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass to put on because it's not split or anything, so you have to feed everything through from end to end. If you've been here on the channel for a while, you've seen us use it before. Just inch your way up and down. You end up with a nice sealed up loom like this. It's easy to cut off, even if you want to cut it off with the wires. You just use a little heat. It's plastic, so it just melts off, and when you melt it, it seals up the ends so it doesn't want to fray. Just really overall good system. We use it quite often, and that's going to lead right up to our coils here. We'll go ahead and melt off a little bit more of this loom, exposing our wires. Anyway, that's, once you get to the end, I like to put a piece of heat shrink. Alright, so we got, let's see, this is our rear coil. So we're going to do our yellow wire rear coil to here. This is one of the few places I use crimp connectors, being that it's a push-on connector to the coil. Normally I do not like crimp connectors at all, and I don't normally use them. Never ever would I use them to join wires together. But when you're terminating a wire at an end, like a ring connector or a push-on, crimping is kind of really one of the options that works best. Really one of the only options, honestly. So, alright, so we got our yellow there. Our red is going to come over to here. And then our black wire, which is our switched power, is going to come to here. But we also need actual switched power, which will come to here. And then we'll have a jumper from here to here. So that will come from our ignition switch, which I have not mounted yet. I do usually just use plain old regular toggle switches. I'm not a fan of keys. They're a pain in the ass. I never really ride the bike and leave it anywhere where I have to be worried about it. Alright, so this is a regular toggle switch we use, 2-position, on, off. Just got to figure out where I'm going to mount this. And then we can continue on with what we're doing. Alright, so I don't have the right toggle switch I want, but we're going to mount it right here in this motor mount. It's all black on the back. The wires will pop right out of there. We'll be able to pick up our power. Our starter solenoid is here. I'm going to paint this all black so it just kind of blends in. It'll mount right here to our battery box mounts. And we'll be able to pick up our positive battery wire, which will come out of the battery box. And then up to the starter. We'll have our toggle switch here, and I just got to decide on our start button. I like to put the start button usually somewhere where I can work it with my left hand, so that you can work the throttle with your right hand. So, and I like it to be pretty easy to access. So again, we'll have to figure out where we're going to mount that, but we're kind of running into a couple hiccups as far as being able to move on with the wiring because we're missing a few parts we need. So I'm going to jump up here and get the cooling system assembled. That was really one of the big holdups. I ordered a bunch of radiator hoses and stuff, so we'll see if we can get that assembled before we call it a day. Alright, so we got our rear radiator hose here. Kind of wraps around the carbs, and then this is the radiator neck. It has the thermostat in it and takes the radiator cap here. Gonna get these hoses off out of our way. These hoses that are on here are completely petrified and trash, so just gonna razor blade them off out of the way. And now we're gonna fit our hoses. We are gonna modify them a little bit. This is our main hose here, but I like to cut it down shorter, drop the radiator neck down lower. Being as the stock mount is gone, it's no real big deal to do this. There is completely different ways to do this. We one time used a whole different setup. Got rid of this neck completely, inline thermostat housing and an inline radiator cap setup. We used that on the drag bike, the Shadow Pro Street. If you're interested in seeing that, you can look that up. It's on our channel. There's a whole playlist for it. It was a nice setup, cost a bunch of money. A lot more than I wanted to spend on this, so we just stuck with this. A little lube on here, help get this to slide in. And then our front cylinder hose, so the Shadows, both cylinders have a hose that routes up to this. I would have bought all new hoses, but they're not available to my knowledge. So that's why I ended up buying a used set, and we're kind of just piecing everything together. Works out fine. Again, if you're really worried about having new hoses and such, there is ways to go about it, but I haven't ever had any problems really using this old stuff, so just keep doing it, I guess, until it gives us trouble. So this hose here, this back cylinder hose, I'm going to pop this off and cut that too. I don't like how it's poking up high like that, and I think we can get it down lower. I'll go ahead and lop off 1.5 inches of that or so. Put our hose clamp back on, a little lubricant, and we're in business. And you can see, well, I'll reposition the camera after I tighten this hose. You can see how nice it tucks the hose down when you do it like this, instead of having a hose stick up over the top of the carburetor, which on a bike like this with the super high neck really would not look that good. the hose now runs down along the side of the carburetor and just pokes up where it needs to. Throttle cable is right there and holds it in place. When we were building the bike, I accidentally put the carburetors in facing the wrong way, and then they made the fuel lines. In my defense, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, so anyway, I'm going to see, hopefully the fuel lines will work just by flipping them, being that the carbs just got flipped. I think we can do that and then be able to hook our fuel line back up also. Alright, well that worked out pretty good. Didn't have to undo everything, just switch fuel lines around. Need to get one more hose clamp and run out and see if I got one. Alright, so found my hose clamp I needed, I believe. Yep. Gotta open it up a little bit. Where'd my screwdriver go? Alright, so there we have it. We got our hoses routed. Kind of tucked in nice out of the way. Not interfering with our throttle. Nice snapback. And we'll be able to fill our radiator here, put our cap on when we're ready to start doing fluids. So moving right along here, we got a clutch cable to make still. This was one of the other things that screwed us at the end of the build, is we didn't have the right ends for the clutch cable, and so we were kind of dead in the water. And then for some reason when I slid this through, it did not want to slid this cable in housing, it got jammed. So let's go over to the vise and see if we can get this thing pulled out of here without killing ourselves. Oh, I see, we got a bind in the cable somewhere. This might be junk. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to just pull these ends off of here and remake this whole cable, because it does not seem like this inner sleeve is going to come out of here. Again, this is probably the results of doing shit you shouldn't do at 3:30 in the morning after you've been up all night. So, no big deal. We'll get the ends off and make some new cables. Alright, there we go. We got our 2 cable ends. Go grab a piece of cable and see about making this clutch cable before we get out of here. Alright, so we got our bulk throttle cable here, or not throttle cable, clutch cable, and we're going to go ahead and figure out the length we need. We got our engine side adjuster, just slice a little bit of this casing off, and then this will fit in our cable end that we just salvaged from our old screwed up cable, so that'll slip in there. And then we're going to route this up to the clutch cable, or to the clutch handle. So we got our length figured out, we cut our cable. Going to slice back a little bit of the sleeve like we did on the other side. And then this will go in here. So I searched high and low everywhere I could think of to find, I'll show you, the Harley style clutch cable end. This ring. I tried removing one from other cables. Anyway, Magnum makes this, you know, build your own clutch cable repair kit, which comes with the end with a length of the inner sleeve. So I ended up going with that because it's just all I could find. If anybody knows where you can buy the ends of the Harley clutch cable, that'd be super cool to know. The lever end, not the other end. Slide this in. It's obviously like super long. And then we're going to fit this into here. Remove this pin. Slide it in. You want to make sure all your slack is out. Now we got our clutch cable figured. Alright, here you can see it's a little tricky to get to, but this is the bottom side, other end of the clutch cable. You can see the cable's coming out the end here. This is our arm on the shadow. So we want to kind of load this forward, figure out where we want it. Then we're going to make a mark on our cable on the end. We'll go like right about there. Now we can pull this out, cut the cable, and solder our other end on. Cable's got like a little coating on it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut some of that off where we're gonna solder our end. You wanna have nice clean metal to solder to. You can't solder to plastic. All right, so we got our little end. Slide it on here. Slide it a little past. Kind of smush that cable a little bit. Gives it a little extra stuff to bite on. And then we're going to grab our little torch. Solder this thing up. So you want to let that cool down. I'm impatient, so I usually will spray some spray on it or something. Then we're going to just fit it into our clutch arm. Alright, so we got that in. Now we're going to get it into the cable mount. Alright, we got it hooked up on both ends. Now we're going to adjust it. Got your little adjuster nut here. Get all your free play out. And now we should have a clutch cable. See if we got some clutch action. So one other thing I did, because normally I route everything inside the frame, but on this particular bike, number one, we made these machined solid slugs, so you can't run stuff in the frame. And being that it was a 24-hour build, we didn't think we would have the time. So I bought a bunch of these like split frame clamps, and they'll hold the cables and stuff nice and neat for us up along the frame. So go ahead and put one of these on. And alright, that's it. Clutch cable's done. Alright guys, that's a wrap for today. As I said in the beginning, we're going to do the wiring in some little piecemeal videos. Then eventually I'll piece that all into one main video, so it's easier for people to find what they need. But got our radiator hoses on, our fuel line on, clutch cable on. So really all we have to do is button up the wiring and run the brake line on this thing, and we will we'll be doing pretty good. So far, real happy with the bike. Obviously, like I said, we considered it a win. We had a great time. We accomplished what I doubt very many other people could. And hey, we're open to a challenge. If somebody thinks they can get one done faster, let's do it. And maybe we can do a little build off or something. So anyway, as always, appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you guys following along. Hope you guys enjoy what we got coming up here in the future, and we hope to see you next time at Gattis Garage.